I caught my kid watching porn. What should I do? That's our topic today. And first, before we even get into anything, wow, that is really painful, almost traumatic for you as a mom or dad, and then have to tell the other parent what you're going through. It is very big. So I want you to stay tuned for a few minutes and hear some ideas that might be helpful for you as you try to figure out what is going on. How can you help? And the biggest fear is like, is this going to be a problem for life? Stay tuned. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please do. We've got lots of information on lots of topics that can help your life. And also, if you have a question, please put it in the box. We'll get to it as soon as we can. So, hang on. I caught my kid watching porn. What should I do? That is a big topic. We're not going to get to all of it, but we're going to spend some time. First of all, validate your own pain about that. You raised your kid better. They know better, right? You have feelings about that, hurt, anger, fear. Acknowledge your feelings about that. That's the first thing you do, not to your child, of course, but to yourself. I feel disappointed. Now, a lot of parents have some really bad thinking about parenting, so let's deal with that right up front. Especially if you come from a religious Christian side, you have this kind of expected outcome that if you're a good mom, you're a good dad, and you love God, and you do all the right things, your kids should do the same. Well, I want to just open this up for a minute. I have a whole book called The Prodigal Parent Process, and it's very, very helpful on this topic, but parenting is a gamble. You can be incredible parents and your kids choose to be criminals because of free will. You could be sucky parents, totally, multiply addicted, multiply cheating, multiply lying, multiple marriage, whatever, in a mess. And you might have a pastor as a child. My point is, there's no outcome. Now, what you need to do, I know you're under a lot of stress right now to solve this. I'm going to get to that. But you need to take the pressure off of you. Everyone has free choice. A lot of kids who watch porn, they get it from their friends, they get it from their cell phones. Now, let's address that right up front. If you give your 9-year-old or 10-year-old or 14-year-old a cell phone and you don't put a porn blocker on it, you handed them a porn store. Most of the internet is pornography. Most of the money spent on the internet is pornography. Most of the phishing is pornography. You just walked your child into a porn store if you didn't put a porn blocker on it. And you can go to drdougweiss.com and there's a porn blocker button. Hit it. Get it. Okay? Myself, my kids, we all had porn blockers on there. Because I said, well, if they're going to have one, I'm going to have one. Okay, so they can't say, oh, well, you don't have one. No, I have one. I don't want to be impacted by pornography either. Okay? And the porn blocker that we subscribe to and want you to, it's incredible. So please, if you have not done that, okay, maybe you didn't know to do that, but you need to know now and go do it today. Don't waste time with that. Now, your kids are not entitled to cell phones. If that's where they're getting the pornography, they're not entitled to a computer. They can have that in the living room and do their homework that way. So think about what your child actually feels entitled to. They're not. Okay, the world grew up without technology. I didn't have a cell phone growing up, neither did you. Okay, but if you're giving it to them, you can either whitelist what they can go on. They can go on this news situation, this learning thing. That's the best way to protect it. A porn blocker is another way to protect it. And also, not letting them have their cell phones or computers in their bedrooms. That's a really good boundary to have. Making sure that your televisions are protected so that they can't go in there and get access to that. Their games are sometimes a way to get into pornography because you got to go on the internet and then they jump into another situation. Their apps on their phones. You need to be able to be in control of that. You have to be the person with the password. So an app doesn't jump out to the internet and they can't go through an app to get on the internet to get into pornography. You need to be a little bit more intelligent about how these things work. And if you don't, ask another kid. They know how these things work. You know, don't ask a 50-year-old about apps. Ask a 12-year-old. You know, but you can get these blocked. You need to be the person in control of that. Now, depending on what you saw, depending if the history is, you know, a month or 6 years long, and you need to know the history of what your kids are looking at on the internet, and the porn blocker gives you that every week, so you can have that. But this could be an incident, you know, and it makes a difference if they got caught or whether they told you. You know, if they disclose, hey, I'm really struggling, be really gentle with the way you walk through this. If it's getting caught and they keep hiding and lying and hiding and lying, well, you need to block access at that point. And if you can, this is a serious thing, because you can't officially give a kid or a child under the 18 the diagnosis of sex addiction. But I've worked in residential and in inpatient hospitals with teenagers who fully fit criteria for addiction. They've tried to stop and they failed. They made promises to stop and failed. They had consequences and they continued to use. Their activities, other activities suffered. They quit the basketball team or football team or cheerleading team or art team or theater group at school so that they could spend more time on their computer watching pornography, okay? There are symptoms of addiction that can show up. And if it's that's a different issue. You're really going to want to get some professional help. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Now, mom and dad, there are some proactive things you can do as well, okay? We have some faith-based teachings on sexuality, sex in the brain, the power of the neurological development. This is science-based, okay? And so it can really, really help them. So you want to prepare your kids if you're not having a sexual conversation. We have a DVD called Born for War, which is for young men. And then there's a DVD for dad. And princes take longer than frogs for the girls. Now your children are going to be sexual because they were born sexual. You don't want to shame them or humiliate them. Just try to, hey, this is a very important part of who you are, just like money, your friends, spiritually. And we need to learn how to manage these things. And that's part of growing up and making sure they have really good, solid information, because they're getting information from pornography, the world, and their friends. And other teenagers don't know what they're doing either. And if you haven't been intentional about the sexual conversations, you need to be. This is a generation that can't be forsaken about this because it's in their cell phone, it's in their schools like never before in world history. You couldn't find a porn store like the internet ever in world history. Clicks of buttons, you're into the most bizarre, sick stuff you could ever imagine. And so we need to be smart about that, but be proactive. Now, proactive doesn't mean, hey, we sit down one night and we watch the DVDs. That's the start. Proactive is you have a regular conversation about masturbation and pornography. You have a regular conversation about images that are being sent to them, or text or emails, or things like that are inappropriate, so you can be a safe place for them. You can get resources maybe in your local church, but sometimes they have nothing. So there's things you can find for you to be helping your child walk through the process. This is a big deal, but really it can be a great situation if you can open your heart and say, listen, I'm a man, I'm a woman. All of us have had struggles and temptations and thoughts and feelings about this, and we can walk through it together. And really emphasize it's about being honest about what's going on. We can work through it if we can be honest. Now, if you really need professional help, of course, you can call my office and see, depending on the age of the child, what can be done. And also, there's also a neuromodulation, which if a child is trying to adjust to stress and they're using this, if you call my office, we've had teenagers to do that with success on several issues in their life. Okay, because if they're trying to change the chemistry in their brain, sometimes if you help the brain itself, it can help eliminate some of these behaviors. Now, this is going to be a journey. Every child's different. Every family's different. And if they've been abused, that's important to find out. If they have other secrets, it's important to discuss. This is going to be a journey, mom and dad. You're not to blame for it. Okay, unless it was your pornography that they found, then there'd be some responsibility. but you're not responsible for their choices, and you are responsible to just try to be loving and supportive through it and see if you can get them the help they need. This is a very critical time in their life. Their brain is developing. It's not fully developed. Okay, it doesn't have to be permanently damaging, but it can be. I'm a recovering sex addict, and I have been over for 35 years, okay, proven by polygraphs. And the amount of pornography and sexual addiction that's in our teen population right now is highest in world history because of access and anonymity. So if we can shut the access and we can start being honest about the conversation, that's a good step, mom and dad. And that's what you can do. You can order these products, sit down and listen. Okay, if you need added support, you can do that. Most kids don't want to be stuck in this. And sometimes there are other issues you don't know about: bullying, pain, feeling inferior, self-esteem. And this is the medicine that they're choosing to use because they don't have access to other drugs, which is great, but this is still a way of medicating. And if you can find out what's being medicated, whether it's biological or psychological or even their interpretation of themselves can cause issues. So I just want to reach out to you and say, this is a scary time, but it might lead to some really good conversations and some long-term cures so that you and your children can walk together in honesty and intelligence about this particular topic. Again, if you've yet to subscribe, please do. And if you have a question about this or anything, go ahead and put in the box your question. We'll be happy to reach out to you. And please walk through this with a gentleness, okay? Because you don't want them going deeper into secrets. You want them to coming deeper into honesty.